Heroes of all types are usually people who are completely out of the ordinary. But that's not necessarily everyone. Heroes in stories often have a supporting cast of people that form their social network, family, friends. Sometimes they fulfill the role of a mentor, a sister, or a potential love interest. Other times they're characters that add flavor and life to the story. Someone like Imel Smith. Element Nature. Zodiac Aries. March 23rd. Blood type O. Imel is the younger sister of Patty, with a 4-year difference between the two of them. Imel here is 10. I would describe their relationship as healthy, where Imel looks to her older sibling for advice on what society will expect of her. When Imel isn't teaching herself new skills such as sewing, weaving, gardening, she likes to explore. However, unlike the intrepid trio of Martin, Meline, and Shane, she tends to stay as close to the village as possible, or to be seen walking beside the river when her mood is particularly low. This is because her father, Patrick, is highly protective of his young daughter. Men in the Middle Ages were often covetous of their children, especially their daughters, for a variety of reasons. It's an archaic practice that honestly gets handed down way too frequently. It's one of the things Bree is talking about when she complains about the patriarchy. My dad gets like that too. But, he's really old-fashioned. Nature element people like Imel tend to have love of forests, the outdoors, flowers, and all things having to do with life, progress, and reality. Though imaginative, nature elements are still practical and down to earth. She's good at coming up with ideas quickly.
We could take rowboats down the Clyde, we could toss cabers with the winter logs, as long as we put them back when we're done. Oh, we could go to the Sultans and go hunting for hibernating quail hiding under the bushes. Mr. McTeague will help us if he can. You bring in one of those blankets and he might even give us some. We'll go to the bridge and pick frozen berries for them to make meat this spring too. We'll be getting them the very best Santralina presents ever. Special ones, Myrty.
But she tends to rely on the other older children to help execute her plans. She's kind, quiet, and observant. Despite being one of the youngest, she does not let her older friends speak over her, but will often become reserved around Shane for fear of outing her feelings. See, Imel has a girlish crush on Shane, but Shane is interested in Meline. Meline is smitten with Martin, and therein lies the first conflict of Monomyth. Interestingly enough, the name Imel means rival in Latin. It's a fitting name, I think, for the sometimes romantic rival to Meline. But their dynamics within the story are completely different. Madeline's story as a hero is far different than Imel's. She's based in part on the girl next door classic trope. A lot of writing is built upon a classic array of tropes and ideas but provide a sort of shorthand for authors when they're looking to flesh out a story. Think of The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joanne. The type of a hero Martin is more than 1,000 different faces, from Heracles to Goku. It's a type of character that, within a few seconds of meeting them, you know their role in the story, at least to a point. You can recognize Imel as the girl next door by the fact that she's friendly and approachable, someone that Martin and Shane have known far longer than the newcomer Meline. She's wholesome and kind, but naive and innocent, with a down-to-earth personality. Her freckles make her cute, but her looks aren't really a defining feature. She's easy to talk to, even if she isn't great at starting a conversation. She's always willing to listen and engage, and her disposition ranges from even-tempered to playful. One thing people might have noticed is that, even for her age, Imel is fairly small. There's a real but possibly unexpected reason for this. You see, sickness was something very common in the Middle Ages during times before things like germs and viruses were known about. And this is what goes into what's known as germry, a concept that wasn't fully recognized until the late 1800s. Basic forms of germ theory were proposed by Italian physician and poet Girolamo Fracastoro in 1546 and expanded upon by Slavonian physician Marcus von Blensk in 1762. However, such views were looked down on in Europe. See, in Europe at the time, Galen of Pergamon's miasma theory remained dominant among scientists and doctors. It's understandable. Galen is regarded as one of the most accomplished medical researchers of antiquity. His influence gave us the development of a vast array of physical sciences: anatomy, physiology, pathology, pharmacology, as well as neurology, philosophy, and logic. Yeah, just logic. But logic in this sense was opposed to Stoicism. Stoics of ancient Greece believed that basically displaying virtue was enough to achieve goodness and happiness in life, whereas Galen's system of logic treated many physiological reasons for things like mental illness. But according to the Stoics, Galen failed to provide an adequate answer for the functions and the location of the mind. And this logic, however, is what led humans to study in the field of psychology in order to find that answer where Galen couldn't. And that's the thing about science. It's always changing, growing, and advancing upon itself. Like a fire, it grows, it becomes more complex and beautiful. But one of Galen's most popular theories was also his most long-lived: the miasma theory. Miasma theory held that diseases such as cholera, chlamydia, or the Black Death were caused by a miasma, Greek for pollution. According to Galen and others, miasma was a noxious form of bad air, also known as night air. The theory held that epidemics were caused by miasma, emanating from rotting organic matter. Though miasma theory is typically associated with the spread of contagious diseases, some academics in the early 19th century suggested that the theory extended to other conditions as well. Get this, some of them actually thought you could gain weight just by smelling food. Actually, I remember my grandmother talking like that sometimes. Mom would be cooking something and she'll say like, "Oh no, I'm already full just smelling it." Next time I'm going to tell her it's the miasma. The miasma theory was advanced by Hippocrates in the 4th century BCE and accepted from ancient times in Europe and China. The theory was eventually abandoned by scientists and physicians after 1880, see, the late 1800s, like I said, when it was just replaced by germ theory in disease. This meant that specific germs, not miasma. Miasma theory wasn't without its positives, though. Because of the belief that stemmed from rotting organic matter and bad air, it actually encouraged a cultural change that made the cleanup of waste a high priority for cities, and also encouraged the construction of well-ventilated hospitals, facilities, schools, and other buildings. They didn't even have vents. However, some recent studies in China suggest that ventilation, especially in public facilities like restrooms, might not be enough to prevent the spread of infectious diseases that are expelled into the air by waste. I wonder if it would help. You could put sensors that would indicate the presence of a virus possibly in waste treatment plants. These might be able to detect a viral outbreak faster and help curb the infection rate of dangerous viruses before they become endemic. Oh, but quick note, so Brie really wanted to put this in here. She loves all things related to France.
Miasma theory actually played a role in creating the Parisian catacombs. See, if I asked you when they were built, what would you say? 500 CE? 1100 CE? Maybe 1500? No, not until the latter part of the 1700s. Before that time, Parisians used open-air graveyards where bodies were just put there. It actually led to a lot of disease and sickness in the city of Paris, especially after the Revolution in the 1790s. To stop the spread of infections among citizens, the city constructed the Catacombs, and it's become possibly one of the most macabre places I'd ever actually want to visit.
Thanks again, Bree. So all this is getting to the point of why Imel is such a small. Short answer, she got the flu. Yeah, like I said, it was really simple, but also devastating. Well, think about it. At that time, they at least understood the diseases could spread through airborne pathogens. But while we have vaccines and other medications to help deal with flu symptoms, during the 13th century, this would have been a very real and scary thing for the Smith family, and what led Patrick to being so protective over her. She was still quite young when it all happened, probably around 5 or 6, and the damage that it caused permanently damaged Imel's linear growth. Well, how does this happen? Viruses of all sorts put our bodies into a state of micronutrient malnutrition. This is a very serious condition that can affect small children if they get seriously sick from a virus infection. That's why it's important to take every precaution against getting infected in the first place. During the Middle Ages, however, and before the introduction of Edna as a village doctor, influenza would have swept through Owlden, infecting the most vulnerable first, and then probably some of the stronger folk like Matthias and Patrick. It's at this time that Cassandra would be doing all that she could to cook up a remedy. One manuscript from the 1400s suggests a cure for stopping of the head and nose. I guess that's what they call it, congestion. It's made from ale, mustard seed, nutmeg, ground up fine, and placed in a pan of water to boil. This was then put into a cup or glass and put under Imel's nose in order to relieve the pain of the sickness. Oh god, I hope she didn't drink it. Although, I guess if she did drink it, it would still have the same effect. It'd definitely open her up. But this is only as good as it got, and for several weeks Imel was sick with the flu and barely eating anything. By the end, Imel pulled through, but her appetite had greatly diminished. It was then that Patrick, trying to do his best for his daughter and horribly misguided in his actions, told little Imel that boys would like her better if she was small, so she wouldn't feel so badly for having stunted growth. And this stuck with Imel permanently, but not in the way Patrick had hoped. It created a stigma for Imel to fall into, where many of the things that she does are to gain the attention of Shane. But as he rebuffs her efforts to get to know him, Imel has started noticing that Martin is much easier to talk to. People of any age can have a negative reaction to body shaming, and it can be well-meaning, saying you're small or taller, and it can lead a lot of people to feeling inadequate. And well, everybody's body is beautiful. Art for this week was Shalak on Fiverr. I'll be putting a link down to their business in the description. Please go and check them out. Art for this channel wouldn't even be possible, however, without the help of our patrons. Monetization on YouTube is not enough to keep us going, so please follow the Patreon link down in the description to help Tales of Atonement keep going long term. We have a lot left to do and a big story to tell, and we simply can't do it without your help. Besides, there's a ton of extras only available on Patreon that won't be available for months on YouTube, if ever. Some of our great patrons include Pammy Poo, Shadow Fox, Arya Gamari, Charles Tam, Jace Moreland, and Lunder Lumen. Thank you all for watching and supporting our story.